Today's theme is the power of conscious communication and how communication shapes our identity, relationship, leadership, and legacy. We have our guest, Vanessa, who is founder and CEO of Communicator Lab. She is a communication and behavior analyst, speaker, author. She has experience of communication and bringing that into leadership. So today we'll deep dive to understand what can we do in terms of our communication through the lens of our leadership. Welcome, Vanessa.
Thank you so much, Ayesha. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm excited for our conversation.
So that was my intro about you. And I believe this is not enough because I know you have done a lot in this space of communication and leadership. But I want to know a little bit a different angle. So if you may tell us, if you think somebody loves you and they want to introduce you, how would they introduce you, you think?
If someone loves me, would introduce me, they would say she's someone who works with her whole heart. She puts her heart in everything she does. I work so much passion in anything I do, in every role I take. So first of all, I make sure that I'm passionate about it. I make sure that I have enough information and it's all backed with science and with real information. I'm well prepared and I just give it all. I make sure that the person I'm working with is taking the most of what I'm doing. I don't have time boundaries. So my giving is not limited to a time frame. It's mostly driven into the outcome, how much the person is going to benefit from what I'm doing.
So beautiful. Like it's more about them, less about yourself. So now let's deep dive with the quote: the real game changer is our perception, not the events.
100%. I absolutely believe in that. And that's why I chose this quote because it summarized everything. When the offer for the book as was mentioned, and the title is She Rises, and it's all about resilience. And I trust resilience is all about not only how much we do during the challenge and how we get to bounce back or bounce forward, rather, but it's more about how are we perceiving it because we're in the middle of the challenge. And each one of us can be in the exact same challenge and perceive it in a different way and therefore act in a different way. And we might make it more challenging or less. So that's why I trust, first of all, it's our perception, is how we perceive things, how we perceive ourselves and our emotions within the situation. And this is how we deal with it.
And I was reading your chapter, and it was taking us through your journey from moving from one country to another country, helping your children, not only yourself, then you help other people as well. It's from leading yourself and then leading others. So tell us a little bit about that.
Exactly. So, if you mean by that, my family, since it was an experience I experienced within my family as well, that's true. So, I chose to share a personal event, which is moving countries. And while I know that this is we can call it a very common event that happens to so many people, not everyone, again, if we go back to perception, not everyone perceives the situation the same thing, and not everyone has the same background or hopes or plans in their life. So that's why this is what makes things different. And yeah, I explored a bit more here. I highlighted more on how I understood and manage my emotions and how I would call it leadership. But again, like each one of us it's a family. Also, we were leading each other. So I wasn't the one taking the lead, but I was taking my part, especially towards my daughter, into how to guide things and how to support my partner.
And you just started with your chapter saying that, like a caterpillar preparing for transformation, a family intrinsically comes closer during the time of changes. As change is rarely gentle, the first and strongest need for a woman and a mother like me is to protect her family, and just like a caterpillar, to create a cocoon where we gather our strength inward. So I'm very passionate to know, like, how do you have that inward focus as strength, and what is the space if you want to share a little bit more about that?
True. Thank you for sharing this part of the chapter. And that's true. I made this analogy between how a mother protects her family and the cocoon. And it's really not in terms of protecting ourselves to hide away. First, I mentioned that it's more into still going through the challenge, but a bit more protected, a bit in our little shell. So we don't break much and get the space to grow and to go through it. And the reason I got to explore this more and to have this level of awareness about my emotions and the need to protect or the need to do all of this definitely was a buildup of everything I've been through before. It was a buildup of other challenges I've been through, about my studies, about so many things. We're all a lot, like we have a lot of layers that bring us to every situation we get to. So yeah, it was all built through different outcomes, if you want. There are so many things that contributed into me perceiving things this way and creating this sense of awareness and management.
And when you were talking, like you said, it's more about managing other people first. It's more about managing ourselves first. And you also said it's about the readiness mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. So I know you are expert in communication. Now I want to know, how do you expect somebody to communicate with themselves first so that they can be mentally, emotionally, and spiritually ready to face any challenge or any changes?
It's definitely something that requires training and a lot of awareness. I know that's not the first thing that people do, and that's not the first response. The first response, if we think about it instinctively, usually we react. Usually we have emotions hitting us. So usually we have the need to protect ourselves. And there's less cognition in this process, especially when we face sudden surprises or changes or any big event. It's definitely not the brain functioning here. It's purely emotions and reaction and instinct. The reason I was able to slow down, and that's why I wanted to share that, because building that helped me a lot, and I trust many people would benefit from it, which is metacognition, which is the what we call it, the highest form of intelligence, in terms of being able to stop, realize immediately what's going on. And this is rare, this is hard, this is a skill that needs a lot of building, to realize, okay, now I'm feeling that, so I can coach myself. I'm the one observing the situation, observing my emotions. Yeah, I'm gonna live them, but I'm aware that what I'm going through and how to deal with it. I'm not saying nothing is perfect. Definitely, I didn't do it in the perfect way, and there's nothing perfect, but it's a bit of a slowing down of the reaction, like a bit of awareness, even if it doesn't change the outcome much, but at least we have this moment of stopping and realizing what's going on.
I'm very fascinated with the word you said, metacognition. And do you also feel like there is a power of word or communication that we have with ourselves to start building the metacognition within us?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, everything related to emotion or metacognition and communication, it all comes back to communication in terms of words. Words are very powerful. Having the vocabulary to understand. That's why we say the first thing in emotional intelligence is naming the emotion. So communication is built on communicate, like verbally expressing and receptively understanding, right? So first of all, we need the language. Once we have a good communication skills and we have the good language to express ourselves, this is the biggest tool we need to do this transfer or translation between our mind, who's thinking, the emotions, and managing, because we need to express it even for ourselves. We need to say it even internally. We need a verbal content to understand. This is the tool. This is like the code to understand what's happening. So we need to build very good communication skills to first communicate with ourselves and to transmit our message to our surrounding and manage the situations. So I hope I answered your question in the combination of both.
You just could relate very easily and understandably, because what I was recognizing myself, because I was in a transition moving from my country. My background is from Bangladesh and moving in Australia. The first few years was crazy, and it's very hard to have that space to yourself and having that communication happening inside of you, and mostly the regulation of emotion is the hardest thing, especially when you said about a mother and as a woman. It's because we are very empathetic, right? So as a woman, we are built to feel emotion, and this is our strength. But at some point, we also feel too much when a lot of things are happening around us, and it's our time to regulate ourselves. And I could relate that very easily, the way you said. And I want you to tell me if there is anything that you want to say that is not right, or there is a common mistake we have found when we communicate, especially to ourselves.
I think the common mistake, I don't know if it's a mistake, again, it's maybe in our nature. We tend to talk negatively to ourselves. We tend to criticize ourselves a lot. And this becomes our internal monologue. So we become our first critique. And I think that's the biggest mistake that we do to ourselves, that we are more empathetic towards others. We understand, like, if my daughter or anyone around me is going through a challenging moment, it's way easier for me to support them verbally and to explain what they're going through in a more positive way. While maybe if I am going through it, I would criticize myself way more. I would demand from myself way more. So I think, yeah, that's our biggest mistake.
It's true. Like when I'm talking with other people, I'm a different person. But when I'm talking and I'm more judgmental, I'm pointing more mistakes. I'm like, why did you
Yeah.
do that? Like, why didn't you do that? I'm getting really very, I can observe that. Thank you for saying that. And
Yeah.
my next thing will be we are moving in a digital world, and now AI is an added thing that we're having now. And I feel like there are so many apps we have on our phone, and we want to communicate to other people. So, but having those communication medias through digital apps or channels and having
Yeah.
a real communication with people, how do you see the world and how do you see it's been impacting in communication and connection and leadership?
I know that most people say that we're in better place in terms of we're more connected and all of that. My point of view in that is I don't see communication as only in the mean of passing a message, right? Communication is a full thing. And this is what I transcribed in my full work and my studies. It's our face, it's our body language, it's our micro expression, it's our presence. We don't even need to talk. When we're communicating with people we love, we can be just in the same room and that's enough. We can just show up for people without saying a single word. So there is a lot of energy into our presence physically that we cannot transcribe online. Yeah, we can send the emojis and the texts and the calls and all of that. And it's supportive if you think about the phone calls. And we have less phone calls now, right? It's mostly texting. It's mostly by pictures or by emojis that I think we're lacking a huge part of real communication and real presence. Yeah.
And relating to that, would you like to reflect a little bit on the impact on relationship, especially with the family members, like close
Mhm.
people? Sometimes we are living in overseas or living in a different part of the world, and we have a
Yeah.
time difference. We know, we understand that, but at the same
Yeah.
time, we can make better communication too. Do you see anything which is via text message comparing to having a conversation?
Yeah, I definitely support, and I'm very grateful for the presence of this technology when it comes to when we are overseas, when we want to connect with our loved ones, with the difference of time. I experienced that since I was living in Australia, and my family is whether in Lebanon or here in the Middle East. So mostly there is a huge gap of time. And I was very grateful, of course, being able to celebrate my little success, birthdays, all of this stuff through video calls. So I'm very grateful for that. And it's still definitely, it has a big meaning in terms of keeping us connected and keeping this communication level. So, yeah, of course, we cannot deny its power. Yeah, even if we are at different times and different stages in our day, but it still helps bridge bridge us together.
It's like having something compared to not having anything. So
Yeah.
staying, having a little bit of taste of connection throughout the day. I saw that when I was reading your book, so you started the journey of having the contentment with yourself, and then you are reflecting that to your husband, to your children, when especially it's everything is not very sure, the uncertainties are around. And this is very difficult because whenever we are facing uncertainty, you also mention that it's very hard to control the emotion. But good thing that you have learned that skill, and that's the reason why you could help other people to navigate through the process. And also, I saw that you have a very sense of faith of the Almighty God. So you have that thing. So, how do you relate having a faith that will help you to be content with yourself?
Yeah, this is exactly that. The faith is the biggest empower because I know that I'm protected. I'm 100% sure that I'm protected. I have zero doubt through that. I'm not saying if you have faith, you cannot be scared, you cannot have doubts, you can doubts in terms of what to do now. But the biggest doubt, like knowing that, yeah, I'm heading somewhere. This is how I start rationalizing things in terms, if it's not happening now, it's not the right time. So it might happen later. Something better is waiting for me. If this opportunity is not moving forward, that's fine. That's better. Maybe it's not for me. I look somewhere else. But some people think this is a toxic positivity. Yeah, we cannot keep on saying everything is better and it's okay. I know it gets challenging. And thank you for saying the skill that you learn and you develop. Because, yes, I highlight on the fact I'm never spreading the fact that, yeah, like we're better or someone is able to do things in a better way. No, it's someone who has learned something and everybody can learn it. Into just having to know how to move through the challenge and still feeling it. I definitely went through the disappointment, went through the exhaustion, went through the tiredness of not knowing what to do, especially when you're responsible and you want to support your partner. So yeah, that doesn't deny this, but faith creates a strong anchor. I know I'm safe. It's hard, it's challenging, but I'm getting where I need to go.
And you said the whole thing in a very beautiful way in your chapter, held a space for uncertainty while protecting the emotional core of our family. I knew I had to regulate myself first, and as my emotion state would shape the environment around us. And then you mentioned about having a repetitive reset of the emotional state. So this is another crazy state of our life, like having the emotional peak again and again, and you have to do the reset button again and again. So what is your strategy, or what will be your tips to do the reset of the emotion?
Yeah. The reset is I learned to believe what makes me feel good, to believe it and to do it. So if what makes you feel good is to dress up, do your makeup, have nice hair, dress nicely and go out, do it. That's a emotional management way, right? So trust the thing. If what regulates you is listening to music, close the door, listen to music and reset. So I learned to trust what are the things that helps me slow down, and regulate myself so I can restart. So I don't get stuck with the emotion, whatever's emotion it is. But yeah, I learned to trust that I know what works for me and I'm gonna do it. And there is no right and wrong because it's very easy for others to tell you now you should be doing that. No, you know what you should be doing, even if it's the silliest thing ever. You know if that is your power move.
And I love that you said, like, you know what is your power move. So it's not about looking at other people. It's not about what other people will be telling me or how they will see me, what they're
Yeah.
expecting from me. It's more about how closely I know myself. How
Yes.
do I understand myself, my emotion, reaction, responses, so that we can act accordingly. And at the end of some part of your writing, you also then brought anger, like when the situation was going really crazy. It's not enough to have the faith and the gratitude and having all these positive affirmations, etc. So it's more than that. Sometimes it's beyond our expectation. We don't know what we can expect. And you mentioned, like, being caught between what was and what could be was deeply uncomfortable. This is the line I'm like, oh my God, this is where people mostly suffer. And this is where people, they either go to a negative direction. They get addicted to something else, which might be negative for their health, for the lifestyle. So how did you get that time through in such a beautiful way?
It's very hard. As you said, it's a very hard emotion of thinking of that as if you let go of the best thing ever. Was I ungrateful? Did I lose the biggest thing in my life? There's this part of regret or uncertainty. What did I leave behind now? Where was I? Where am I going? Especially that we cannot see what the future for us is. We cannot see it. I believe it's always something better for us, but we cannot see it this way. I think I built that because of previous experiences, because I trust, as I said, that, yeah, even we always think, and I mentioned it as well, we all think the grass is greener on the other side and something else is better, but also we reminisce a lot on what we had, because that was what we had in hand and what felt so sure. So yeah, again, that required a lot of work, but not only during the moment, because as you said, there was the anger, there was a lot of negative emotions, but we had a lot of readiness. So we worked on that. We expected that. So we had this conversation before and we said, once we're there, things might not work as we want. And we know. So this mental readiness played a huge role, that we prepared ourselves. I'm usually someone realistic. I sound optimistic, but I'm not an optimistic person. I'm realist. I always think about all the perspective, like it might happen this way or also this way. So I prepare myself to all the scenarios. That doesn't deny the emotions, but maybe this is more I'm protecting myself, like, yeah, I'm ready. Whatever's gonna happen.
And this is why you said you claiming reassurance by saying, we'll be safe. We're in the right place and this is happening for a reason. You're realistic. This is why you're saying this is happening for a reason. So learn from it and then apply the learning for the next phase. So I love that part you said in the book. And you also now said change requires bravery. And it's not always a conscious choice, but it is always our choice to take the front seat, ride the wave with the confidence, self awareness, and faith. The true game changer is how we perceive the event. So, change and communication and communicating to yourself, communicating with other people. How do you see the connection between change and communication?
First, about the change, yes, it requires bravery, big time. And I've seen it around many people around me that they cannot make the slightest change. Why? Again, as I said, it's very common for so many. If you think about, yeah, so many people make so many changes every day. We change work, but so many other people have been stuck in their comfort zone for so long, whether it's a relationship or work or the place they're living in or any circumstances. Change requires a lot of bravery. But once you start doing it, you can keep moving forward. And I believe a lot in taking accountability. This is a decision. And when we take a decision, we take it with all the risk. This is the spirit that made me an entrepreneur, right? The feeling that any decision I'm gonna make, I'm responsible of it 100%. Because if you come in a victim mentality, why is this happening to me? Definitely it's gonna get way harder to go through it. So I know that there are so many circumstances that happen out of our control and it's not our choice. Yeah, 100%. But there's always a part that we contributed in. So let's just take accountability. And with communication, this is delivered in everything. Communication between families, between partners, or in the work between the team. Change comes always with a lot of it requires a lot of adaptation, right? And without correct communication and clear communication and assertive communication, we cannot navigate change. Regardless of who are the two parties in it, we cannot navigate change if we don't have strong communication ability to express ourselves and to understand others and to have a mutual agreement with it.
Yeah, very true. And I think there is the chance of more miscommunication, misunderstanding, and which brings more negative emotion when we do
Yeah,
not communicate to other people, especially at the time of change. Not only
correct.
in the organization, but also in the family.
True.
Is if there is somebody who is not very good at communication, who might be called introverted, who is not very expressive, and they don't have the skill to communicate. So,
Mhm.
how do you suggest them to start communicating?
Definitely, the lack of communication or the ability or having good skills in expressing ourselves definitely create a lot of challenges, misunderstanding, and it might end relationships way sooner that before they even get the chance to explore it. So I trust. I'm not saying being introvert is something wrong. We all have different personalities, but it's very important to learn skills, as we mentioned this multiple times today, very important to build the skills that we need to navigate. As if you cannot say, okay, I'm a slow person, so I'm gonna drive slowly, regardless my car, regardless if that is against the rules, right? There's minimum speed on the road. There are other people driving the cars. You have people with you in the car, and you cannot just say, oh, that's our personality. I'm someone slow, so I'm just gonna drive slowly, right? So we cannot carry our personality and go through things. No, we need to learn how to drive right. We need to speed up when we need to speed up. We need to follow the rules of the road. Otherwise, we should not drive a car, right? And same with everything in life. We cannot say just because, yeah, that's my personality, I don't have the skills. And that's not an excuse. Otherwise, we're gonna lose along the road.
Yeah, I love that. And somebody who is not good enough with communication, they probably have to have the awareness and then understand this is not only for them, it's for safety and also for other people around them. I love the analogy that you use, driving the car. And obviously, when we're 100K, we have to move to 80K lane, you have to slow down, or if it's moving to 120K lane, you have to speed up. So that's a beautiful metaphor you have used. As a communication specialist, if I may, what communication habit you may suggest anybody to build so that they can be more effective in communication?
I trust the first step is building communication around emotions. While that might not sound like the first thing that people think, and even when you're raising children, a lot of people, when they have children, they start with, this is an apple, this is a banana. No, we don't care about that. It has to be functional communication. And for us adults, so for children, functional communication is a child who is able to say, I want, stop, no, yes, give me. So it's their needs. For me, the first 10 words are pure needs, are not apple, banana, house. I don't care about that. And for us as adults, it's our emotions. I trust that's the first thing. If you're not very good at expressing yourself, first of all, learn how to identify emotions, express them, express your basic emotional needs. If you have that, you can at least start the basics of a human interaction.
So starting with emotion. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, what do you feel? Just communicate that. That is the best
Yeah.
thing you can
How
get.
are you feeling and what would make you feel better? And yeah, and I think this is what we lack the most as well when we move to a country where we don't speak the language and we feel stuck with that because we cannot express our basic needs. Again, we care a lot more about knowing how to expressing being safe or connecting with someone or sharing what we need over like ordering a coffee, right? While usually people start first learning how to order a coffee. No, that's not the first thing. You need to express your needs and your emotional needs before actually getting your cup of coffee.
Interesting. I love that. And as you're mentioning about the kids, so I know you wrote a book for children. I believe that's from your passion. So it made you to write a book for children.
Thank you for mentioning this. So, actually, that was a short book that I wrote about stuttering. And again, I love making analogies. So, the book is mostly an analogy about when we talk, is mostly as if we're riding a bike. And sometimes the road is bumpy, sometimes it's smooth. And I just make this comparison for children to understand that as much as that running a bike is so much fun and everybody wants to do it, but the road sometimes is different, and that doesn't stop us from riding the bike. What matters is to connect with our friends, to reach the destination and enjoy the ride regardless how it goes. So that's like a summary. So yeah, I wrote this book to help because I work with many families and children who stutter. I work with different difficulties and pathologies, but specifically at that time I was working with multiple families with children who are stuttering, and I could see the challenge, and I created this story for them.
Such a powerful contribution, honestly. And as you can relate with the children, so I know you are a mom as well. So, has anything changed in your communication style or your listening skill after you became mom?
Big time, and not all in a positive way. I had a lot of information. I was used to guide a lot of parents, but I wasn't a mom. So I knew the theory. I was an auntie, all of that, but I wasn't a mom. And when I became a mom, I had so many moments of, oops, oh my God, like I regret saying this to that family. I regret saying this to that mom. I wish I could visualize these parents again in front of me and tell them otherwise. Because theory is very different than practice. And also, I could see that motherhood is like the art of instinct, and there is a lot of emotions involved. Where otherwise I would suggest more of practical or firm responses, not very firm, but I was more applying what I learned. Yeah, it's better to manage emotion or better situation this way. Or no, I could see that motherhood is, there are way more emotions involved. There's a lot of inner work to do to stop yourself from to breaking the chains, right? Chains and the cycles, as we talk about. And I'm glad we're in this generation who is way more aware of that. So yeah, there's a lot of stopping and thinking, what am I doing? Am I repeating my parents? Is this something I read somewhere? Is it something just a response? So I could see that it's very challenging. If you want to do it not right, but if you want to do it the best that you want to do it, it's very challenging.
And related to that, a quick question like, how do you define leadership?
Leadership for me is a combination. It has to have a lot of empathy, and I apply a lot of empathy, but also assertiveness. So I know exactly what I want and what I expect from the people working with me or from my family or whoever I'm leading, but also it needs a lot of empathy. We need to focus more on we want the outcome, but we need to realize who is the person providing this outcome. What are they going through? How challenging it is for them? Where do they shine? If they are struggling. So there's a lot of consideration of the person. Yes, we want the outcome, but we need to be much more flexible and consider the person in front of us.
Beautiful. So, if I may ask then one more question, how do you define rising?
I define rising into you go through the challenge. Yes, you rise in terms of you elevate, come out of it. But I trust it's like a linear thing, like we have different levels in ourselves. And every time we go through a challenge, it's like a spiral, right? Like we go higher into ourselves. And then we go through another challenge and we go higher. So it's linear between us, right? Like it's for us, it's not like we're getting better than anyone else, not a competition, but it's more of us going through a challenge and then elevating. It's more of an elevation.
I love the word you said, elevation. It's
Yeah.
continuous process of elevating one phase to another phase. And you also wrote transformation. I believe the elevation represents transformation. And I must read these few lines for everybody. The transformation came through feeling fully and realizing that acceptance is more powerful than control and resistance. When we hold on to our core purpose, we can endure any challenges. When we allow emotion to pass through us, we rise again. So that's it. We have to go through our emotion. It's not something that we have to leave behind or we have to hide. It's more about going through the emotion. Now, the question I asked to everybody, we believe in Mindspeed. My analogy is we have to elevate it through brain, heart, and nerve. So I want to ask you, like, how do you see elevating with brain, heart, and nerve? And what do you mean by that?
All right. First, I want to mention you, and I love what you do. I love the framework that you created. I love this balance. And thank you for the gift as well you shared with us that represents this combination. I totally support it. And I guess that's what I mentioned when I spoke about leadership or anything that we do. It's really the combination between, yeah, what needs to be done and how we are going through it. So have this empathy to have and having the courage to do it, even if we don't know what the outcomes are, to do it anyway without, we don't need to feel ready, just do it. And if I want to add one more thing to it, is to celebrate. I think we all forget to celebrate by the end, but I always make it like I remind myself when I finish anything to complete the cycle, celebrate, and then go again.
I prefer to celebrate first. This is my commitment to myself. You already celebrated, now you have to do the work.
Oh, wow. I love that. I should try it. I love that.
So you teach what communication is more than words. It's not about the word, it's more about emotion and the feeling. So when someone have a conversation with you and after the conversation happens with you, so what do you expect them to feel and remember about you and having the conversation with you?
I definitely prefer for them to have a positive outcome, but not only positive. I'm not someone who cares a lot about people perceiving me nicely. I prefer people to remember me in their tough times. So maybe this sounds hard, but actually I experienced it many times and it feels so good. I love it. And people who's gonna hear that, they know themselves. Many people who I've worked with, they call me or they contact me or they share with me their news years later, months later, years later. And they show me how I'm still impacting their life later on. And this means to me a lot that they didn't only hear me at the moment to solve a specific problem, but they cared it. So my voice became always ready in their mind. So every time they need it, they can use it. And I care about that much more. I love it when someone tells me, I remember you told me that, or I remember what you said, and I did something that helped them. And this is exactly the impact that I want. It's not like an instant impact. I want to literally help someone on the long term.
Wow, it's such a powerful way. And even if you're not there present in front of them, they have the asset inside of them, which they can carry and use in many different ways. And that actually says about your core message, the human experience in communication, the humanity in communication, which is so much invaluable, especially in the society where we have mistrust and a lot of misunderstanding to see people in through different lens. And
Sure.
I am amazed having the conversation with you. If you ask me, I can go on again and again, continue having the conversation with you because I feel so passionate on the topic. But we want to finish our conversation understanding how do you feel after the conversation now at this moment? What's your feeling? Just a little bit on that.
All right. First, I would like to thank you so much for this conversation. And I felt very comfortable as well sharing everything with you. And I want to mention, most of all, that I'm a lifelong learner. And if any of what I said sounded like I figured it all out, I didn't. And I definitely have a lot more to work on in myself and to learn. And maybe I will have a different perspective about even what I wrote or where I'm living now a few years later. And I hope so. I hope I elevate later even for better and higher levels. So thank you for giving us this time to communicate. And I loved your chapter as well. I read it and I'm really inspired by you and by the strength you built with right in the middle of a very big challenge. How you built everything and you figured things out, and look at you now leading and supporting other women as well. So yeah, I salute you for that and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. And with a quick understanding, if you may tell everybody how they would connect with you.
All right. I'm not very good at posting, but I'm available. So they can reach me out. I have my website, the Communicator Lab. I'm available on social media, on Instagram as the Communicator as well, or on LinkedIn. So they can find me, they can message me. I reply, even if they don't see recent posts from me.
Communicator Lab is the word for Vanessa. I will also add the link of her LinkedIn and Instagram page. So this is where we can finish our conversation today. Keep elevating your leadership through brain, heart, and nerve. Stay connected and stay elevated.